Alrighty folks, this is Lurch from Ireland Gaming and welcome back to episode 3 of the Back to Basics series, where we're going to be building our very first infrared missile system. We're going to go with a vertical launch system, just so, it looks cool. Vertical launch missiles I think look the best. So we're going to start off with a missile controller. This is a very important block. This is where it's kind of like the brains of your missiles. It connects on 3 sides. You can connect other components to the other 3 sides of it. You'll see the red faces denote places where you can't connect other components. Next, we're going to need some 6-way connectors. These are like a way to just expand the system. We also need to have the symmetry mode on, which is something I often forget. So now we have press N for our little symmetry line. Now I'm going to build these sideways. These are just to allow me to connect missile launchers, which are these, the launch pads. Now, if you look at the little arrow on the top of the block there, that denotes the direction of the block. Now we want to make our missiles launch vertically, so you can either hold the tab key to change the direction, or you can press or look up and press the G key, and this will orientate the block in the direction that you want. Now we're going to add a couple of these. We've now got 7 missile launcher racks, but we have no missiles yet. We have to add missile blocks to actually add the missile components. For every missile block that you add, it gives you 2 configurable blocks in this next menu. Whenever you hover over a missile, you can press Q and it will bring up this menu and show you the configuration options for your missile. If you build a basic missile like this, of about 5 parts, the game will actually auto-fill in a reasonably good basic explosive infrared missile for you. So if you want, you can just go ahead with this. Because we're using vertical launch, this particular missile won't work, but I'm going to show you how to make it work very shortly. Let's fill in the rest of this quickly. We now have 7 5-block long missiles. I think I'd like them to be a little bit longer though, so we're going to expand it up and make it 6 tall, just to give us a few more configuration options. These ones here have all set correctly, but this one on the end hasn't. This is a handy trick. If you have a load of missiles that you have set correctly, let's just assign design to all same length missiles. If we click this, it will use these settings for every other missile attached to the missile controller, and you'll see this guy here is set correctly again. So that's great. It means that rather than having to set every single missile individually, after you do your configuration, you can just click this Assign All button and it will assign them to all the other missiles. It's a really good time saver. Another thing we want to add before we actually start configuring the missiles, and these aren't 100% necessary, but I like to use them in most cases, are ejectors. These are a way, whenever the missile fires initially, to give it a little bit of a push off the launch pad. It just helps to get it clear from your vehicle and push it just a little bit away further into the air. They can be very, very useful in certain scenarios and they can be necessary in others. In this case, it's just a little bit of an extra shove to get the missile moving. Now it's time to configure the missile itself. And we're going to stick with basically what we have here. This is a pretty good little missile. We have a short-range thruster on the back. Short-range thrusters offer you all sorts of different configuration options. There is another thruster called a variable thruster, but we're not going to look at that now. We're going to stick with this one because it works just fine. We have fuel tanks that allow you to add more fuel. If you want your missile to go farther, you're going to need more fuel tanks. And each missile has a certain amount of fuel. Whenever this runs out, they'll drop out of the sky. So you want to have enough to get to the distance or the target that you want. And I just broke it. Let's go get another fuel tank. You'll see I accidentally clicked that and it changed it to a body. So we want to put another fuel tank in here. If you click the select the box that you want, then go over to the fuel tank and double click that, and that will set that one to the right setting. Fins are used to give the missile agility and how it moves in the air. You need at least 1 fin for the missile to be able to turn, and adding more increases the rate at which it turns. So if you want a missile that wants to fight very, very fast moving targets, you're really going to want fins. Next, we have a target predictive guidance, or prediction guidance. This is a part for predicting the path of vehicles. Again, extremely useful for fast-moving targets. Without this, the missile will not be able to predict where the target is, and it will constantly aim at where it currently is. That may not seem so bad, but for faster targets, if it's constantly moving at the target, then it's going to miss because the target is moving so fast, and the missile is not actually agile enough to turn and hit the target when you want it to hit it. So target predictive guidance allows you to hit faster moving targets a little bit easier. Not always necessary, but great for shooting aircraft. The one turn is completely necessary for vertical launch missiles, unless you're using laser designation, but we'll cover that at another point. One turns, whenever the missile fires initially, will turn towards the target that they are aimed at. With a normal missile, different guidance types have specific guidance parameters. Infrared seekers have a specific cone in which they can see targets. One turns allow you to push the missile in the right direction to allow other types of guidance to take over and guide it the rest of the way towards the target. One turns are a great way for starting off a missile's launch trajectory, but you'll find that if you're using turrets for your missiles, you won't need them. Fragmentation warheads are a warhead type that explodes into a stream of little fragments whenever it hits a target. They do pretty good damage, and you can actually set the cone angle that the frags spray at. It's a good idea in this case to set it pretty low, because low angle frags are a very powerful method of doing damage to ships. The other benefit of fragmentation, again above explosive warheads, if an explosive warhead detonates beside another missile, it will destroy the missile. So if you have a large array of missiles attacking at the same point, you'll find that they can actually detonate each other. For this reason, we're going to add 2 fragmentation warheads instead of an explosive warhead. Let's find that on the list. You can do loads of different configuration options, but we're going to stick to just having 2 with 15-degree angles. This will produce a very narrow spray of fragments and do pretty good damage. The next part is the infrared seeker. Now, these parts seek out hot parts of the hull, such as engines, propulsion systems, and other various warm bits. They can get spoofed by flares, which are a fairly common countermeasure, but they're a good basic simple missile type. This simple missile configuration, which is mostly default, will actually do a pretty good job in the campaign, and is worth using. So rather than set up all the other missiles or go into any more advanced things, I'm just going to assign the design to all the same length missiles and be done with it. We now have a really nice little missile array. Before this missile system is complete, we want to add a really important part for heat-seeking missiles. The Identify Friend or Foe add-on in the missile menu is extremely important, and it prevents your IR missiles from attacking your own targets. So we're going to take one of these and put it right there, and that's all you need to do. As long as there's one connected, that's it, and it will stop it shooting at your own ships. Now, this setup isn't finished yet. You need a local weapon controller on this so that the AI can actually control it if you don't want to have to fire it yourself. But that's for a future episode, because the local weapon controller has a whole bunch of bells and whistles attached to it, so we're going to cover that later on. For now, we're going to wrap up the episode. We'll come back and discuss ammo and ammo processors in the next episode. I do hope you enjoyed it. Any likes, subs or comments are really awesome. I love hearing from you guys, and I read every single comment. As always, take it handy and have a bloody good day.